When we're ready.
I think it's going to work, Rabbi. Sorry, everybody, we're a little bit late. Had some computer issues, but welcome back, Rabbi. Good to see you.
Thank you. Hope everyone enjoyed a pleasant and enjoyable Thanksgiving weekend with their families or close friends. I remember from my childhood living in the United States in New York. It was always a nice time before it got too cold, and it was a time for families to get together. And besides the good TV, good football, and so on, yeah, it's a pleasant time before it gets too cold. Here, there are some people that celebrate Thanksgiving. Obviously, former Yanks, people that have immigrated from the United States to Israel, and still remember pleasant memories of Thanksgiving. So that you can get turkeys here. The funny thing was, about a week ago, suddenly pumpkins became scarce here. Now, I don't know what it was. My wife says, of course, it's Thanksgiving, right? I don't think that there are that many Americans that celebrate Thanksgiving. I joked with my sisters that if she's making a Thanksgiving dinner, I'm coming. I'm coming for the turkey and for the stuffings. And if anybody had invited me to go to one, I would have gone. But my wife, being from the United Kingdom, we've had some Thanksgiving dinners we've been invited to in previous years, but it's not a common thing here. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed it and hope you're all enjoying uh, fairly moderate weather and no more
Is
hurricane like
is
that.
pumpkin pie or pumpkin spice in the fall? Is that a thing in Israel? I mean, because here pumpkin spice everything, pumpkin spice coffee. I mean, people put it in milk, any hot chocolate, I guess, or whatever.
Oh, I'll have to try
Pumpkin
that.
spice everything in the fall.
No, the only thing I think people use pumpkins for here is for, let's see, definitely for soups. A lot of pumpkin soups, different types of pumpkins are used for soups. My wife, every Shabbat, every Saturday for the meals, she makes a nice big pot of chicken soup. And there's always, I love the pumpkins in there. Some people make a pumpkin pie or maybe roast it a little bit as an antipasti. Um, but it's not as popular as it is in the United States. Definitely not Thanksgiving time. All right. So first of all, welcome to all. Bruchim Aba'im. Shalom from Israel. My name is Dov Kaplan. I'm teaching on behalf of the Noahide World Center that is located in Jerusalem. Someone recently said to us, "Can we come and visit you?" I said, "Yes, you definitely can." This is all in an email. There isn't much, the office or our centers. We're busy with other things during the week. Rabbi Goldberg is very involved and very busy. Rabbi Cherki is, but he also teaches in other places. But if anybody would like to meet up with any of us or all of us, it can definitely be arranged when you come, if you ever come out to the Jerusalem area. We'd be very happy to meet you, get to know you, answer questions if that's possible, and because we're very excited about this movement of people. This week's Torah reading. You might be familiar with the ancient custom in Jewish communities around the world where a few chapters of the Torah, of the Pentateuch, is read every Saturday, every Shabbat morning as part of the service, the public service, the community service. This week we continue the story of Jacob and his brother Esav. We just finished last week when Jacob has supplanted, I think would be the word, his brother Esav to be recognized as the firstborn, the premier son, to carry on the message and the path of Abraham and Sarah and their parents, Rebekah and Isaac. And he has to escape, he has to flee because Esav has threatened to murder him. So that's the way this Sedra begins. And he has this famous prophecy, this dream of a ladder that stretches between heavens and earth, the heaven and earth, between the sky uh, and the earth. And God appears at the top, the angels going up and down, and God speaks to Jacob and says that I will be with you, do not fear, and I will get you back here after you spend whatever time you have to spend in your uncle's house in Haran. So it's a very foundation, I would say, prophecy. First of all, if any of you are familiar, and I see many of you are more familiar with Christian doctrine than I am, but the idea that the heavens and the earth can be bridged, or there is a ladder between the two. You don't have to divide and say, you're either here or you're there. Obviously, while you have life and you're breathing, you're down here physically, but you have a godly soul, a spirit of God in you that comes from the heavens, which means we can be the bridge, and we have to recognize that there is a connection. You don't have to negate either one completely in order to do God's bidding. God was giving Jacob his first known prophecy to say to him, this is your struggle. The angels are going up and down. Some of our sages explain the angels are our prayers. When we pray to God, we're sending up sort of angels up to the heavens that they should be heard up there, and God sends down his response. We're not always conscious of his response, but there is a communication between the two, and we should recognize that and not fall into despair that I have to give up on this world to become holy or to become a spiritual being. And we don't look for martyrdom, and we don't look to exclude ourselves from normal human society. We have to improve human society. And one interesting thing that I wanted to, as an introduction, before we begin the class of the book today, is that all three of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the grandfather, then his son, and the grandson, Jacob, they were all promised by God that the nations of the world, the term in Hebrew is v'nivrechu becha. V'nivrechu, that's one word, becha, which is generally interpreted as, and the nations of the world will be blessed through you. Again, all three patriarchs were promised this by God. And the problem is the form of the verb, nivrechu, like a bracha, like Baruch Ata Hashem, which means blessed are you, God. A blessing is a bracha. So you can hear v'nivrechu is the bracha, beracha is also there. But the form, the way the verb is spelled or written in the Torah, it seems it's insinuating or teaching us something more than just the nations are going to be blessed through us, or that the nations are going to recognize eventually that Israel is a blessed nation and the world should learn from the interpretations of the Torah as passed down through the generations. Rabbi Cherki, our mentor, our leader here at the Noahide World Center, he has a brilliant insight that in Hebrew, to graft in agriculture, in farming, you're planting a vine. When you graft something from one tree onto the next, a branch onto a tree, or when you take the vine and make a knee, I think would be the literal translation. You take a knee and you pass it through the earth and bring it out again, maybe a few yards down, in order to improve and get more of a crop and let the vine grow. That's called havracha. So take it as grafting on. So Rabbi Cherki is saying, yes, the nations of the world will recognize Israel or Jacob. They will recognize, they will be blessed through the Jewish people, but they will be grafted on to the vine or the tree that is Israel. And this is a big message of Rabbi Cherki and that we promote here at the Noahide World Center, that once you choose to follow the path, the Noahide path within Judaism, you are grafting yourself on to the religion that was designed or developed from the Word of God in the Torah. You're not converting completely to be a Jew, be part of the Jewish people, but you are part of what Rabbi Cherki calls the Jewish spiritual circle. Because the spiritual circle, we'll call it, that we're trying to teach the world, is based on Scripture, based on the Torah, the idea that there's one Creator who loves all of mankind and began revealing the Torah to the people of Israel through Moses at Mount Sinai, and we are developing God's Word throughout the generations. That is this spiritual message of the Torah that the Jewish people have been carrying and bearing and developing. Once you decide you want to follow the path, what's called the Noahide path, then you are grafting on. You are now within this circle, this spiritual circle that believes in one God, the Creator, that cares for mankind and cares for all the creatures, and expects us to partner with God in completing the creation and making this world a good place, a better place, of peace, of justice, of righteousness, of compassion for all of mankind. So God bless you all. This is why it's very exciting that when I realized God, I went back to look. God has promised this to each one of the patriarchs, and he uses that term of the nations of the world will be grafted on. They will join themselves. It has to be their choice, not by coercion or anything like that. So anyone that is listening to this, that believes in this and would like to grow stronger, God bless you. All right, so what we're doing, what we try to do each week, Rabbi Cherki, who I mentioned before, he wrote a book that elaborates on the seven Noahide commandments, the seven Noahide principles, instructions. And what he did was, where he was innovative, or is that um, he the seven, you all, I'm sure you're familiar with, are relatively easy. Don't do this, don't do that. Most of you wouldn't do anyway. And many of you want more. You want to, yeah, but that's easy. It shouldn't be that easy. It shouldn't be that difficult either. And it shouldn't be something that you're afraid of or that you live in fear of hell. Or it shouldn't be that. It should be, I want to do this because I believe in it. It makes sense to me. And it makes me feel whole. It gives me a life of meaning. So Rabbi Cherki realized that, yes, these are the basic principles, but from every one of the seven, there are many sort of minor instructions, not minor, but that branch out. So, for instance, I saw somebody ask on one of the a message board or a Facebook page of some Noahide group about respecting parents. As if, do I have to respect my parents? It was something I think to do with changing their name. Somebody was asked, I'd like to change my name because I'd rather not identify with I think they actually said father, not necessarily, not only because he's a believing Christian, but other values that she disagrees. I think it was a woman asking this question that she disagrees, but she didn't want to be disrespectful to her father. So is she allowed to change her surname, her last name? And I saw some people responded saying a Noahide doesn't have to respect their parents, isn't obligated to respect their parents. And I can tell you in the book, and I think we saw it last week or 2 weeks ago, before Thanksgiving, Rabbi Cherki made it very clear, based on Jewish writings of the sages from many years ago, that the sages said that every human being has three parents, if you want, or there are three people or three entities that partner together to create in each individual. We obviously have our biological parents, mom and dad, but God is in this threesome. So, and the Torah is telling us this, also in the Ten Commandments, where we're commanded to honor and respect our parents, that if we believe we have to respect God as our parent, so to speak, our parent in heaven, then we also have to respect our parents. So Rabbi Cherki doesn't put it down as an obligation because it's not one of the seven. However, if you want to take it really to its true meaning, when it says that we have to serve the one God and not blaspheme and not criticize or curse God, that's because God is our parent. So from that point of view, what Rabbi Cherki in each chapter, after what Noahides are obligated to do or restricted or prohibited from doing, he brings in what he calls he finishes each chapter with a few other lines about proper conduct that relate to one of the seven. And as I said, he makes it very clear that Noahides must respect their parents too. Now, what does that mean, respecting parents? In different societies, it might differ, maybe even different regions of the United States, but we all understand, even if, and this, I've been asked this question, what happens if my parents were abusive? My parents weren't, God forbid. I love my parents and they treated us and took good care of us, and I hope that's the way it is with all of you. But we know that there are exceptions. So it doesn't mean that you have to put up with it. Definitely not. But you should not, the way I saw it, the way I explained it to a young lady who had asked me this before her wedding, whether she has to respect her father, who had not treated them well after the divorce or from their mother. I said, you don't have to actively pay any respect. I would you should try to eliminate or avoid situations where you'd feel that you were demeaning him or abusing him or embarrassing him, putting him to shame. But it doesn't mean that actively you have to do it. If you feel that he has not treated you well, then okay, then you don't have to go out of your way to make sure you're honoring him. It's another thing, of course, if he repents and he really shows remorse and so on, but that's not always the case. But definitely Noahides, and not only that, the rabbis were very clear about this. Any um, act or moral behavior that um, it just makes sense. If you want to be a moral person, you don't need the Torah or the sages to tell you to do it, or that you're obligated to do it. Now, respecting parents, a person who's had a life in a family home of love and where your parents have taken care of you, you don't need anybody. And the fact that let's say it's not one of the seven, a moral person would say, I don't care if it's not one of the seven. I believe in a righteous God who's looking down upon us. And I know I have to respect my parents. How far you go with it, well, that's up to you. And that's something we should be studying together. And that goes for everything. You don't need the Torah to tell you not to steal. Every human being inherently knows that maybe unless under extreme conditions or circumstances, you're not allowed to steal from anybody. It's not yours. Don't take it. Don't touch it. Same thing about killing or murdering anybody. We all understand it. Or putting someone to shame. I don't need to be told that it's wrong to do that. Even when it makes me feel good or it makes me feel, a person that does that, you'd say, I don't want to be a friend with that person. That person's a bully. That person, besides that, they might turn on you too, but that's not the issue. So again, anything that you feel is immoral, you don't need us to tell you to do it, and it does obligate more than the seven or above the seven. The seven are basic instructions, principles, but the things that you know are wrong to do, wanton destruction of property would be another thing that's obvious. Telling lies, slandering people, those are all things we don't need to be told those things. And those things, the sages said, obligate Noahides too, not even though they're not part of the seven. All right, I hope that was clear. Let me try to share on the screen from the book.
Rabbi, I got chapter 4, item 12. That'd be
Right,
page
so
53 and
can
up.
you see it, Frank? Give me the thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's begin. Extreme caution should be taken not to curse authority figures or prominent people. So this chapter in the book, called the Brit Shalom, the Covenant of Peace, it refers to the prohibition, one of the seven of the Noahide laws, not to curse God or blaspheme. So as I said about parents, because God is also like a parent, and we should respect authority and parents. So we should be careful not to curse any authority or prominent people. And I know we all voted, or many of us voted in the last elections in November, and people got very worked up on both sides. Now, I won't tell you who I voted for, but I am pleased by the outcome. First of all, I have to say I'm sorry because of the way I expect Israel to be treated and to be protected. We're still under threat here. But besides that, I think also this will be good for the country. It's not perfect. And I think, yes, the president should be held to higher standard, or we should hold the president to higher standards. But we should be careful. Now, I was brought up, you respect the office. Unless the person's a downright criminal. And even then, all right, you don't have to like the person, but it's not a good idea to let people start talking about and slandering and calling names to the authorities that are supposed to be running our societies or our countries. And all the more so, not to curse the nation of Israel. We're not allowed to, even if you think, the Jews, the only thing we're allowed to say about the people of Israel is that we're a stiff-necked nation. It's a quote from the Torah that God has said this after the golden calf, and I think one other time in the Torah, we are called a stiff-necked nation. I think Moses says, I know that they're a stiff-necked nation. That's about the worst thing we're allowed to say. Even if you know that, there's a group of Jews over there who are too much in money or don't care enough or aren't paying their taxes, as many people in the Western world. We're not allowed to say that. We're not allowed to slander the Jewish people. As I said, the only thing we're allowed to say, because Moses said it, and is that we're a stiff-necked nation, which could also be a blessing, could also be a strength. The fact that the people of Israel are still around today, the Jewish people are still around today, have survived. And not only that, obviously there's anti-Semitism, and it's just incomprehensible that people still judge Jews without even knowing them, just because you're Jewish. And you ask many Jews who have suffered, where even in the United States, a modern democratic country, but stiff-necked nation is because we're stubborn. We're not willing to give up. Not only surviving, but we're still practicing our religion. In the United States, I think about, I'm trying to make a calculation, maybe 20% of the Jewish people there are very traditional. I'm not even going to get into Orthodox Reform or conservative, but a very traditional 20%, I think would be the calculation. And then there are lesser degrees of tradition. So people are still Jews. Our stiff-necked nation, we're not willing to give in. But it could also be sometimes to your detriment. We know from the stories of the prophets, the books of the prophets, when the prophets came in and admonished them, warned them that God has sent the prophet to warn the people of Israel, and they didn't listen. So, but again, in general, we should not speak negatively about anybody. Keep it to yourself. Definitely about politicians. And again, why are people still surprised when politicians fall short? Caught drunk, caught cheating on their wives. It's terrible. It's terrible when that happens, and we do expect them to behave better. But it doesn't mean we should constantly curse them or call them bad names. Again, it doesn't mean you have to support them. 13, the sages of Israel praise the other nations of the world for their respect of the Torah. In general, when other nations respected the Torah and realized that even today, in a manner of speaking, Christians do respect, a person who believes in Christianity respects the Torah. He just says that there's something newer than that, which of course we believe is absurd. And there is no verse in the Torah that even suggests that there will ever be a replacement for that, or that these laws will be abrogated or expired. On the contrary, so many laws in the Torah, in the Pentateuch, say that these laws are forever, for all generations. So anybody who says that you don't have to practice them today, well, then you're saying that, and Jews, then they're saying that the Torah is wrong. So when other nations or peoples of other nations recognize that the Torah was given by God through Moses to the people of Israel to be observed for all times, well, the sages had praise for them. I recently spoke to or communicated with a Muslim in Pakistan. I think he was a bit deceitful because I generally don't waste my time on those things. I think he entered into one of a WhatsApp group that I'm, I guess, a member in, a Noahide WhatsApp group. So when he contacted me with a private message, I thought he was looking to ask me some questions as a rabbi, as a teacher, to further himself and clarify things on his Noahide journey. And then I realized after a while, no, he's a believing Muslim. And then he really wanted to have a lot of conversation with me. And I said to him, listen, I don't have time for this. But I have had a few chats with him. And when, at one point he was trying to convince me of the validity of Islam. And the absurdity was, he said, the Quran says the Islam is the truth. Now, any person with a half a brain knows you can't prove to me the authenticity of a book based on what that same book writes, that claiming to be the truth, and telling me that there were miracles written in the Quran that prove that Muhammad was the true prophet. Again, I'm sorry, I said I don't believe in those miracles. And you know what? Even if he did perform those miracles, so what? And then he said, no, but we believe in your prophets. I said, you believe that Moses received the Torah at Sinai, revealed to him by God? He said, yes, we believe in that. And then that all the other prophets. I said, if you believe that, then how do you believe in Islam? Right? That came, was it 3,000 years later or 2,000 years? I don't understand it. He said, eventually he said half politely, the belief is, that's the way he put it, not him. He doesn't believe it. The belief is that the people of Israel distorted the original version of the Torah. We change things. The story of Isaac being Abraham offering him up on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem as a sacrifice to show his commitment to God, that was really Ishmael. Abraham took Ishmael up there. And, I stopped him at one point. I said, let's not waste any more time. What you're saying is so absurd. First of all, you're saying in many ways what Christianity says. So, in other words, you're saying you believe in Christianity, but really Christianity was wrong too, because they distorted things. They deviated from the truth. So basically, and that's what Christianity says about Judaism. The Jews were so bad, they eventually started fooling, they messed things up. I said, you're basically saying the same thing. And I said, not only that, you have a man called Muhammad, who was not a learned person, who was not an educated one, who was about, it works out about 2,500 years after the fact. How does he know what the Jews distorted? Claiming, I don't believe the Jews distorted anything. We might have made some mistakes here and there, but how did he suddenly come across this notion that the Jews have distorted everything? And not more than that, why should I believe it? So he'll say, well, Allah told him on the mountain. Yeah, I have a Brooklyn Bridge to sell you too, or whatever. It was absurd. So I rarely speak to him now, but it was an eye opener to me, because he eventually said to me, so I said, why did God choose the Jews? He brought them out of Egypt, gave them the Torah, the Israelites, as we were called then, the Bnei Israel. He said, well, those were the good ones. But now, when Muhammad came, now the Israelites are bad. And that's what he says is what they preach in Pakistan. So I said, you know what? You just show me, you claimed that Pakistan was an open-minded country. Now you've just said there's rampaging anti-Semitism there. If they believe that myself, my children, my grandchildren, my whole family, and any Jew that you might have met, we're all the bad Jews now. We're all the ones that denied Muhammad and are working against Muhammad, which isn't true. I don't care one way or another as long as they're peaceful. But that's downright racism and anti-Semitism. And, it's very depressing to hear. So he says, that's not what I believe, but it's what the imams all teach in Pakistan. So if anybody ever says, and again, I've met Pakistani people, some of them are very nice, some of them seem to be enlightened, but he says maybe that's why the people that I met, the Pakistanis, have all left Pakistan. I don't know. But it is a bit depressing to hear that's still around. And I'm sure you've all come across this also in Christianity, within the church, that yes, the Jews were, but now they're not. Now they're not, and not only that, God has rejected them. Unless you're evangelical, that's probably what you've heard. 14. There's a moral obligation to thank the Creator for every goodness He bestows upon us. Again, honestly, you don't need to be told to do this. If you're a polite person, you've been brought up correctly by your granny, your grandpa, your mom, you say thank you when somebody does you a good turn. You show appreciation when you get your gifts or anything, or to our parents. And it's moral, it's correct, it's proper, it's polite to say thank you to somebody, to show your appreciation. Now, more so the Creator, God. God every day, and we've spoken about this in the past, God gives us life every day. Renews our ability to do things. And if you have a roof over your head, you've got food on the table, you've got enough energy or to pay, you have enough money to pay the bills, and most important, you have family around you, close family that love you and you love them, and you're responsible, feel obligated and responsible towards each other. Those are all very, very big blessings. So it's a moral obligation, not even a religious obligation if you want. If you want to be a moral person, we should be thanking God every day. Not all day, you got to get the job done. But, when you decide what time of the day or what stage of the day, I'm going to take 5 minutes to say thank you. And any language, just say, God, I appreciate it. If you want, the best thing is, I've discussed this, make a list of 10 things you'd like to thank. It doesn't have to be the same things every day. You decide. 10 things you think I'd like to thank God. And you can say, blessed are you, Adonai, King of the universe, and say, I'm Thank you for the food. Thank you for my health. Thank you for my job or whatever. Thank you for my spouse, my beautiful children. Based on this principle, the sages of Israel, I'm continuing reading, the sages of Israel composed blessings of praise, our prayers. It's in the Jewish prayer book. Blessings of praise and thanks that are recited at times of enjoyment, such as eating and drinking. Before you eat something or drink something, thank you, God, for giving me this bread, for Master of the universe, for giving me the bread, giving me this pancake, um, this great fruit, or this created something that to quench my thirst. And not only that, honestly, you feel better about it. If you really, just for those 3 seconds of saying that, when you look at the orange, you look at it differently. You suddenly realize, wow, this is an amazing thing, this orange. The vitamins that are in it, the fiber, the taste, if you like oranges, or orange juice. Same thing, toast in the morning, fried egg, or whatever you eat. It makes us appreciate life more. And when we appreciate life, the good things in life, the relationships, the good relationships that we have, the food, the blessings, we'll be happier people. Um, Now, there is a prayer book that Rabbi Cherki composed, authored for Noahide. He took the Jewish prayer book and I think and redid it a little bit so that it would make more sense or feel more appropriate. He probably took out a lot of things because honestly, and I'm a rabbi and I've led communities and people come to me sometimes and say, Rabbi, the prayer service is too long. And I surprise them when I say, you're right. I agree with you. And realize I get there on time and I'm there to the end because I'm the rabbi.